Hi everyone. The title of my speech is actually How I Got Over It. And I wouldn't mention that except it'll become clear later on in the speech. Or I should say a few weeks ago, the word of the day, which I'm now obscuring, was bugaboo. And I thought it was really interesting that we talked about bugaboos in terms of, it seemed like almost everybody, or at least half the people here, one of their bugaboos or fears, unreasonable fears, was public speaking. And it's something we're afraid of, but we're all here. It's almost like the moth to the flame, like you just can't resist. And I started to think about that concept of unreasonable fear. Because ever since I was young, I remember the FDR quote, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," and I thought it was pretty catchy, but not until later did I actually start thinking about it. And I'm like, well, maybe fear maybe fear gets a bit of a bad reputation. If fear is the reason that we're all coming here, or that some of us are coming here, maybe fear has some good qualities, some motivational qualities. And I started to think about that concept of, like, how many things in my life have I faced that I would consider reasonable fears, and how many of them are something else, maybe that other kind that I should avoid. And so in preparing for this speech, I made a little catalog of things I've been afraid of over the years, and started to think about how I've dealt with them. And maybe I haven't necessarily gotten over them, but how have I learned to work with them within my life? So what I did was I brought a little heart, and inside there are, I guess this is a good day for things that people don't usually talk about, but inside I wrote down and put on little pieces of paper, or actually printed out, things that I've been afraid of in my life. And I was hoping that I could get some volunteers to take a little quick reach in with my heart tonight, if anybody would be willing to. And if not, I will call on you. But the reason I structured it this way is one of my biggest fears is uncertainty, and I knew that if I did it this way, there would be no way that I could predict essentially what was going to happen. And I thought, if I'm already here addressing my fear of public speaking, why not just add another layer to it? So I think there was one volunteer.
Dissatisfaction. Pessimism.
Got it. I can just hold on to that. I want to keep track of these things. I struggled with preparing for this one because they sound like the same thing. Dissatisfaction and pessimism. And I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Office Space, probably, hopefully, a lot of you. But there's a part when Peter Gibbons is talking to the hypnotherapist, and he says, "I don't know why I just can't go to work and be happy like everybody else." And growing up, I always thought and maybe I was taught, there's two kinds of people: the people that think a glass is half empty, and the people that think that a glass is half full. And the glass always seemed half empty to me. Always, like pretty much without fail. And that kind of bugged me for a while, because I was like, if I had a 50-50 shot, why did I end up like this? Why couldn't I have been one of those people that just wants to, skip rocks and run through the sprinkler and think happy things all the time? And then one of these days, I was having a conversation with my friend, and I thought, the people that think things aren't so bad, they don't really ever get anything done. They just sit around and say things aren't so bad. But it's the people that are really struggling with how things are that actually work to improve it. And I started to feel like maybe this isn't such a bad thing. Maybe, like, glass is half empty makes you think, hey, how the hell do I fill up this glass? And those are the kinds of people that drive things forward. So I became a little more comfortable with that. The other side of this one, the dissatisfaction, was actually something that I was thinking about when I was at the vet. Because my fiance and I have a cat. And the cat used to have a little bit of an eating problem. I shouldn't say problem, just used to eat a lot. She was 16.5 pounds. She's since come down to about 11, which is closer to her target weight. And we were noticing that the cat would just get really irate because it used to get a full food bowl whenever it wanted. And so having to put the cat on a diet made the cat cranky. And we're thinking about, okay, quality of life. Do we want our cat to be happy? Do we want our cat to be fat? Do we want our cat to be fat and happy? Or, maybe unhappy but live longer? How do you make that trade-off? And so we talked to the vet about this, and he said, if you feed a cat to satisfy it, it's just never going to happen. Because one of the things that they do from an evolutionary standpoint is they get hungry long before their body needs food. So you can't ever satisfy them. They're just going to be hungry and hungry and hungry until they eat themselves into oblivion. And the more I thought about that, the more I was like, well, why should I expect too much different? Like, if I'm satisfied with something, then it's just, I'm not going to work for it. And so maybe I shouldn't have these expectations. Maybe I shouldn't always want my food bowl to be full. Maybe like the cat, if I want something good in my life, I should have to work for it. Green light's already on, but we still got a heart here. Anybody? You're making eye contact. I like it. It's the easiest way into my heart, I suppose. What do we got there?
Oh, I could trick him and say something else.
Yeah, but
Depression.
we got a couple of tough ones. I'll be careful with this one too because it's related to the last one. But I know also that we have at least one poet in here. But I used to write poems because I thought it was a good way to deal with emotions that I didn't know what else to do with. And one of the things that I realized is the more I wrote poems, it almost became like a physics equation with me. It was like for every emotion that I expressed, there was an equal and opposite reaction on the other side. And I started to realize the more I wrote those, the more attached I became to those feelings. And all of a sudden I had this external thing that now like had a life of its own. And every time I'd go back and read them, it would kind of make me sad. And it wasn't the cathartic thing I was hoping for. So I would say with depression, I just, it's like a scab. You kind of learn to stop picking at it because it's not going to feel better. And I realize that I'm one of those kinds of people that if I think about anything for long enough, I can talk myself out of pretty much anything. I can convince myself I'm having a terrible time. I see the red light, so one of the things that I wanted to say is that I titled this How I Got Over, but in a lot of ways, you don't ever get over some of this stuff. You don't always come to an easy equilibrium with the things that you feel afraid of in this life. And I think, like public speaking, it's nice sometimes to just have a chance to chip away at it. Thank you.